Hey everyone, I'm Rob and welcome to the test drive. Today I'm driving the Jaguar F-Pace, and this is gonna be kind of an interesting review because it's not gonna be quite as cinematic and some of the other elements that are normally in my reviews, because I don't have this car actually for very long today, and I don't have really any of my camera equipment other than my GoPro Hero 6 Black, which I'm filming this entire video on. But that said, I'm still gonna do a full review of this, and if this is your first time visiting the channel and you think that I don't know how to make cinematic reviews, you may be partially correct, but there are also a lot of really nice cinematic videos on my channel, at least in my opinion, so feel free to check those out as well. But today we are driving a very exciting small crossover SUV, and that is the Jaguar F-Pace. Now, the F-Pace was Jaguar's entry into the modern SUV crossover market, and I think they have done really well in it. It was introduced for the 2017 model year, and since then it hasn't really changed a lot. However, for 2019 there are a couple key differences, one of which is that there is now a 10-inch touchscreen standard, which is a larger touchscreen that is in the one that I'm driving, because the one that I'm driving is actually a 2018. You also get some of the safety features like automatic emergency braking, lane keeping, and you get front and rear parking sensors, which is one of the annoying things with this one. I mean, it's not really as much of a factor for me, I guess, because I don't really care about this kind of stuff as much, but when you put it in reverse and you're backing up near something, there's no noise or sound or anything to indicate how close you're getting. It's nice to see some of those features being put into this vehicle, because after all, this is not a cheap vehicle. It is an expensive luxury crossover SUV. Now, what I've always loved about the F-Pace is how aggressive the front looks. I love the headlights, how they are this wide look, very modern, very nice, and just the stance of it. It's low, it's wide, it's not what you would traditionally expect in this market. For example, if you think of the BMW X3, I think that this looks so much more aggressive, so much better. The side profile is really nice as well. It really doesn't look that small, and there are a ton of rim options available with it. I just have these standard rims, which are definitely my least favorite, but as you go through the different trim levels, there are other rim options that you can get. And then when you look at the rear, I again really love the look here. I like how wide these taillights are here. I also love the big Jaguar badge, and the fact that you get dual exhaust as well is really nice. Then when you get to the interior, I really like the look in here as well. You have a nice soft steering wheel. It's also pretty aggressive, especially of the notches at 9 and 3. It feels really good. The quality of the base leather is also really good, and it's held up pretty well. This F-Pace has 15,000 miles on it. I wish a black headliner was standard, but it actually isn't in a lot of SUVs in this class, so that's okay. If you move up to some of the higher trim levels, you can get that, but I like this panoramic moonroof as well. It looks really nice, and it really opens this up. I think it's kind of a must in small SUVs like this. You even see like the Ford Escape, for example, not a competitor to this, but also coming with a panoramic moonroof. One of the interesting things that I found while driving this is that the window controls are actually all the way up here right next to the window, and I kind of like that in a sports car maybe, where it's a little more difficult perhaps to reach down low or something like that, but when it's up here, it's a little bit awkward sometimes. Just a personal thing. There may be people that really like that. I also feel like the interior is really roomy. I have quite a bit of space here. There's a decent amount of space in between the driver and the front passenger. And then let's jump in the back seat to see how the space is there. The back seat in the F-Pace is also surprisingly large. I'm 6 feet tall, and I actually have a lot of room in between me and the front seat, and this is in the position that I was sitting in driving this car. So it's very surprising. A lot of times in smaller SUVs, the fear is that the back seat is going to be small, or it's something that's not going to be comfortable for 4 grown adults to ride around in, and that's definitely not a concern in the F-Pace. They really did space this very appropriately. You also can get heated seats in the back, which is what I have in this F-Pace. And then right below the heated seat buttons, you also have 2 USB ports and a full power adapter. So that is really nice and very modern, especially with the USB ports. And then you also have a lot of trunk space. So that is also very surprising. I love the look in this F-Pace. I feel like it really is a driver's car, just the way everything is set up. Position, you have the start stop button in. Love that this rotary dial actually sinks into this piece and comes back up when you start the car. Another awesome feature is that when you put this car into reverse, the passenger side mirror actually turns down toward the ground. And BMWs have done this for a long time as well, so I love that Jaguar's doing the same thing. I've seen this in Cadillacs too. I like that navigation has always been standard in the F-Pace as well. Now, the F-Pace that I'm driving doesn't come with a ton of technology. You do have this nice touchscreen though, and like I said, the 2019 actually has a larger touchscreen standard, but this does have a decent amount of functionality. For whatever reason, satellite radio is not standard in this F-Pace. I don't know if it is in the 2019 or not with the new 10-inch touchscreen. I would think that it is, but that's something that I will find out. You also have a nice screen in between the tachometer and the speedometer. The F-Pace that I'm driving does have heated seats in the front, heated seats in the rear, and it has a heated steering wheel, which is very nice. Actually gets very hot. Here is the Jaguar key. Now, the weird thing with this, I love that the mirrors fold in when you lock the car, by the way, but no keyless entry standard. And this is one of those weird things that I also experienced when I had the Range Rover Evoque. For whatever reason, when I had that car, keyless entry was not standard either, but it had a push button start, which is kind of a bizarre thing that I've seen in different vehicles, and I've always wondered why that is, because if you're already doing the keyless functionality inside of the car to do the push button start, why can't you have keyless entry? Now, getting to the performance of the Jaguar F-Pace, one of the things that I loved about the F-Pace when it was first introduced was that the base engine was a 340 horsepower supercharged V6. And that is no longer the case. You now have multiple 4 cylinders that comprise the lower half, I guess, of the trim levels in the F-Pace, and the only way to get a 6-cylinder is to step up to the S-level trim. That is going to give you the 380 horsepower supercharged V6. Now, there's also, new for 2019, the F-Pace SVR, which, if you know Jaguar and Land Rover, you've seen the SVR name before, but the F-Pace SVR has a 5-liter supercharged V8, and that supercharged V8 puts out 550 horsepower and 502 pound-feet of torque, and it makes this thing sprint from 0 to 60 in only 4.1 seconds. That is not the fastest SUV in this class, but it is still very fast. Now, the one that I'm driving today has the most powerful of the 4 cylinders. So the base 4-cylinder is a turbocharged 4-cylinder, puts out 247 horsepower, 269 pound-feet of torque, which is a respectable amount for the car class. However, there is also a more powerful turbocharged 4-cylinder, and that puts out 296 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. Another thing that I've always loved about the F-Pace is that it has been available in a diesel. The diesel that comes in the F-Pace is a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo diesel, putting out 180 horsepower and 317 pound-feet of torque, and that is a lot of torque. However, it does 0 to 60 in well over 8 seconds, unfortunately, but it does get very good fuel economy. It's rated at 33 miles per gallon on the highway, and that is with all-wheel drive. So that is really nice. Also 26 in the city. So honestly, I think the diesel is a really good option. I hope they continue to offer it, because you have a lot of manufacturers like BMW that don't want to sell diesels in North America anymore. And now we're actually going to take this F-Pace for a drive. And that's because I have to drop it off now. Really? Now, I really like the way that this F-Pace drives, even with having a 4-cylinder.
Now turn left.
I'm turning left. You do have a little bit of lag, but it's nothing unbearable. I feel like the 8-speed automatic sometimes doesn't know what gear to be in. That's really the only issue you ever have with taking off immediately. Like right now, I'm just gonna punch it. It takes a second or two, but when you do take off, it's like brute force. It just goes, and you can get a little bit of wheel spin depending on what you're doing. The more powerful 4-cylinder is certainly not slow. Jaguar says it can do 0 to 60 in 5.8 seconds, and it feels like it can. The F-Pace also corners decently well. I feel like because it is a more performance-oriented SUV, it's kind of lower to the ground, a little bit wider. It does feel very nimble. It's not slow. It really gets up and goes. And the ride quality is very nice. It is much better than what I expected. It's very comfortable, again, very driver focused, which I love. Also have steering wheel mounted paddles, so if you push down on the rotary dial and move it into sport, it will change the behavior of the transmission, but then as soon as you touch one of the paddles, it gives you full manual control over the transmission. The paddles are actually pretty responsive. On downshifts, they're not quite instant. And on upshifts, they feel almost completely instantaneous. I'm actually surprised that this can be fun to drive in manual. Obviously, I'm driving on a freeway. There is no reason to downshift other than because I want to. We also have several different driving modes for this car. So you can put it into dynamic, which is the more aggressive mode. Yeah, the steering feels a little bit heavier. It's definitely more responsive, so if you even touch it at all, the car moves.
Traffic jam heavily on 93 between exit 14 and exit 16.
It definitely holds the gears longer when you're in dynamic as well. And you can put it back into normal, and then you also have an eco mode. So in eco mode, the car doesn't move as much if you just touch the steering wheel lightly, and you have to press down on the gas a little bit harder to actually get the car to downshift. But I feel like in dynamic mode, maybe with the paddles as well, you can have a lot of fun with this on a back road, which is not something that you can say for every vehicle in this class. This navigation system is also pretty good. It's very easy to use. The only thing I don't like is that it doesn't display on the screen what your next turn is. So I can see my next turn or exit is in 1.5 miles, but I don't know what it is. However, if I touch it,
Prepare to keep right at exit 21A after 1.3 miles.
then it actually speaks it to you and tells you verbally what you're gonna do in a mile. Otherwise, you just kind of have to pay attention, and then you'll see, obviously, when you get up there. So I hope you enjoyed this rushed and unfortunately not very cinematic review of the Jaguar F-Pace. I will definitely make sure I get another opportunity to get behind the wheel of this car and do a full cinematic, very thorough review of the F-Pace. I really have enjoyed driving it though. Highly recommend you check this out if you're in the market for one. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I'll see you again in the next video. Bye-bye.